So this particular world is an illusion. And so this particular world is an illusion. And the more and more you put validity into this particular world, the more and more you don't get to your spiritual self. And the more and more you put validity into this particular world, the more and more you don't get to your spiritual self. So now I really don't live in this world. Motherfuckers, I don't give a fuck about this world. The more you don't get to your spiritual self. So now I really don't live in this world. Motherfuckers, I don't give a fuck about this world. People say, yeah, well, where you want to go? Don't you want to go to Africa? Don't you want to go to... I said, I don't want to go to no place. I hate this dynamic. Don't you want to go to Africa? Don't you want to go to... I said, I don't want to go to no place. I hate this dynamic. Fuck that shit. Fuck all that shit in the street. I don't want to go no goddamn way. I want off this bitch. Don't you want to go no goddamn way. I want off this bitch. All that shit in the street. I don't want to go no goddamn way. I want off this bitch. I don't want to go no goddamn way. I want off this bitch. All that shit in the street. I don't want to go no goddamn way. I want off this bitch. Don't you want I don't know shit. I don't want none of that stuff. I'm tired of eating. I'm tired of pissing. I'm tired of shit. I'm tired of this bullshit. I want all of this shit. If I'm a guy, I'm tired of shit. I'm tired of this bullshit. I want all of this shit. If I'm a pissing, I'm tired of shit. I'm tired of this bullshit. I want all of this shit. If I'm a guy, there's a time delay on the physical realm. That means everything that you think, you're supposed to think into existence. That means everything that you think, you're supposed to think into existence. That means everything that you think, you're supposed to think into existence. But there's a time delay, so it might take 20 years for you to achieve what it is. That's some shit, ain't it? What is heaven like? That moment when you first have that orgasm is a bit of the spiritual energy of what the spiritual realm is like.
They don't intend to practice righteousness. They want to continue this unrighteousness because that's where their power comes from. Because if we turn to start and empower ourselves through these righteous energies, then they lose their power. So this is why they're trying to circumvent that. They're spraying. They got the heart program going on. They're messing with our food. They're taking the seeds out, which is where the inflammation comes from our mother, Mother Earth. Through these righteous energies, then they lose their power. So this is why they're trying to circumvent that. They're spraying. They got the heart program going on. They're messing with our food. They're taking the seeds out, which is where the inflammation. Start and empower ourselves through these righteous energies, then they lose their power. So this is why they're trying to circumvent that. They're spraying. They got the heart program going on. They're messing with our food. They're taking the seeds out, which is where the inflammation comes from our mother, Mother Earth. They're doing everything to circumvent us from stepping into our empowerment, taking our rulership and claiming that rulership, you see. So that's what they're desperately trying to do, keep the illusion intact so we don't see through the illusion. We want the apocalypse, right? Stop popping this up. We're popping up the illusion. We're keeping ourselves in oppression. Because as soon as we break the material bondage that liberates us, you see, a lot of us are afraid to make that step because we're still hanging on to the limitations that the physical world has. We're still hanging on to the limitations that the physical world, because we're still hanging on to the limitations that the physical, the material bondage that liberates us, you see. A lot of us are afraid to make that step because we're still hanging on to the limitations that the physical world has programmed in us that makes us think we're make that step because we're still hanging on to the limitations that the physical world has programmed in us that makes us think we're subjected to that. We got to come out of this victim type mentality because we're subjected to that. We got to come out of this victim type mentality because we're the most powerful beings of the universe. Victim type mentality because we're the most powerful beings of the universe. Come out of this victim type mentality because we're the most powerful beings of the universe. But if we don't claim that power, then, we are going to be victimized. And like that power, then, we are going to be victimized. And claim that power, then, we are going to And like I said, anyone who can define what you believe defines what you create. He's victimized. And like I said, anyone who can define what you believe defines what you create. And that's why they've gone through such elaborate, rituals to symbolize that. But that's why they have always programmed us to think that we are victims, because they don't want us to see the power.
Ever have a sequential patterned sky. Patterned sky. I don't care where you are in the world. This is happening all over the place. I mean, look at that. I mean, when did the sky ever look like a sandbar? Patterns, repeated, equally spaced, quote-unquote clouds. It's the 18th of April, 2021. Freezing cold in Tennessee. Look at that. I mean, it looks like the scales of a giant creature or something, but it's just a microwave sky. And a creature or something, but it's just a microwave sky.
What's up? So, let's talk about the Black Boule. These black gatekeepers. The ones that join the fraternities and stuff, the Psi Alpha or whatever, Psi Phi Sigma, all that bull. So these are the guys that's put in control over the rest of the black community. You know what I'm saying? Because since they have earned their little rank, like they think, and joined their game, they feel like, they get put in better positions. And they put their friends in better positions, the ones that's in the group. But these guys, they go through it to get in those positions, man. They know they gotta sell us out. They gotta sell us out for the most part, I believe, because that's what they do. You look at your Steve Harvey, he always throwing his stuff up. Ricky Smiley. If you seen that movie Drumline, go watch that movie, the clip where when Nick Cannon joined in that fraternity, the sorority, fraternity, I don't care, but look at the scene right there. And then the next scene, he walking around, he having trouble sitting down because he done got fucked up his ass, That's the subliminal that they show you. That's what these guys go through. Now, I ain't saying all of them, I'm not saying all of them, but for the most part, man, you can't trust them. You can't. Martin Luther King and everybody that was around him back in those days was in one of those groups. Each of them was in a different one. You know what I'm saying? All of our supposed leaders, black leaders, they in it. All the women that's supposed to be a leader, they're in it. You see it? You see what's going on? You know what I'm saying? That's their circle. And we ain't part of the circle.
Since the beginning of time, humanity has looked to the heavens for the answers to earthly problems. Do the movements of the stars and planets hold the secrets to human destiny? Can the patterns of the stars reflect the hidden character of individuals based on the date and time of their birth? Astrology, predicting the future by the movements of celestial bodies, has been with us for over 4,000 years. Today, science denies any validity to astrology. Yet for countless centuries, millions of people have believed in it. They point to tantalizing evidence from history. In the mid-1930s, some believed a German astrologer predicted the rise of Hitler a decade before he came to power. Centuries earlier, during the Renaissance, a visionary is said to have foretold that the imprisoned Princess Elizabeth would someday sit on the throne of England. scholars now examine how a belief in astrology may have led 3 wise men to follow the Star of Bethlehem. Modern science is subjecting astrology to closer scrutiny than ever, with sometimes startling results. Is belief in the power of the stars merely a baseless superstition, or one of mankind's oldest truths? Before the art of astrology was developed, ancient people relied on a basic knowledge of the stars and planets for their very survival. Many sites around the world speak of astrology's earliest beginnings.
The origins of astrology might even go back more than 20,000 years into the Paleolithic, because there are carvings on bones and other objects that indicate perhaps early interest in lunar tallies, the motions of the moon.
The astrology practiced today was born over 4,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq. Ancient civilizations in the region created some of the world's first cities and developed early agriculture. They were also among the first to turn sky watching into a fortified system of astrology, a method which remains basically unchanged even now. The Babylonian system of astrology might have been lost forever. Alexander the Great had not taken his study back to Greece after his conquest of Mesopotamia.
When Alexander the Great invaded the East in 331 BC, this was a momentous event because he introduced Babylonian astrology to the Greeks and Greek mathematics and observational astronomy to the Babylonians. And the result was basically what we know today as astrology.
Babylonian priests saw astrology as the works of the gods. Later, Greek philosophers applied astrology to reveal individual character and personality. By the dawn of Christianity, the Roman Empire had succeeded the Greek and inherited its passion for astrology. As the Romans marched through Europe, astrology went with them. But historians often wonder why astrology was readily embraced by so many. Society easily accepted it, from peasants to emperors. One Roman ruler would select his astrologers by subjecting candidates to a test that could cost them their lives.
There's a very curious and quaint story about Tiberius Caesar hiring a personal astrologer named Thrasyllus. Tiberius tested his astrologers in a very peculiar way. What he would do is submit them to a test, and if they didn't pass the test, he would throw them off the cliff. Thrasyllus looked at the chart and trembled and said, "I see that I am in imminent danger of death, O Caesar. I know not from what cause." And Caesar said the equivalent in Latin of "you're hired." And Thrasyllus served Tiberius for the rest of Tiberius' life.
While the fascination with astrology thrives in Europe, other cultures around the world also study the prophetic patterns of the stars. Chinese scholars devised an elaborate form of astrology based on associating each year with a particular animal. Constellation charts kept by stargazers for Chinese emperors are some of the earliest astrological artifacts ever discovered. On the other side of the world, the ancient Maya of Mexico and Guatemala create an elaborate calendar with incredible accuracy.
The ancient Maya developed probably the world's most elaborate astronomical and calendrical system. The day that you were born in the Maya 260-day calendar contained your fortune, contained your fate for the rest of your life, and you took part of your name from the day that you were born in this calendar.
While the chronological accuracy of the Mayan calendar is well known to archaeologists, much more mysterious is the Mayan system of prophecy. In the early 16th century, it is predicted that bearded, light-skinned visitors will arrive from the east, but the specific time of their expected appearance lies years in the future. The Maya lived to see the prophecy fulfilled. In 1519, exactly as predicted, bearded, light-skinned people from the east set foot on the shores of Mexico. They are the conquistadors from Spain. The Mayan calendar may also hold a disturbing prophecy for the modern world. Over 2,000 years ago, Mayan astrologers calculate the date of the end of the world, a doomsday which is believed will take place in our own time. The Maya determined that the universe is destroyed and then recreated in regular cycles, once every 5,000 years.
This great 5,000-year cycle comes to an end soon. Probably most of us will live to see this. The date should be about December 21st, 2012. And although the ancient classic Maya civilization came to an end in roughly the 9th century AD, if those calendar priests were here to see it today, they would probably expect that in 2012, around the winter solstice, that our cosmos, as we perceive it, would come to an end and some profound new order would be established.
Did Mayan astrologers foresee a catastrophe as yet undetected by modern science? It is an ancient riddle to which the answer may soon be known. The Romans and Mayans were not the only ancient people to see signs written in the stars. Even sacred texts bear reference to the influence of astrology. Did the heavens foretell the coming of Jesus? What is the Star of Bethlehem that is said to herald his birth?
Stars told the coming of the prophet, but also told the coming of the false prophet as well. The false prophet, which is Mr. J, and then you had the real prophet, who did not fall down from the sky, like y'all like to say, was born of one of us, okay, born of our seed. And then if you look into that, you find how sinister that got, because that's the same guy, that black that came Mr. J, he came over here, that's right, and was kidnapping our people and putting in slavery. And then, of course, you got the real prophet, who was also black, as Shem's Enoch, although the name's wrong, that they really should be talking about, but they wrong.
Some of the earliest references to astrology are to be found in a surprising place, in the pages of the Holy Bible. Evidence also lies here in the ancient ruins of the Holy Land. In 1932, archaeologists unearthed a 4th century synagogue in Israel. To their astonishment, they also unearthed something totally unexpected. In the very center of the temple, they find a beautiful mosaic of the zodiac. Its discovery baffles scholars who have long believed that astrology was strictly forbidden in Judaism.
There shall not be found among you any that practice divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Deuteronomy 18:10.
If Judaism frowned upon astrology, how then did the zodiac become the centerpiece of a synagogue? Some scholars now believe that, contrary to long-held belief, astrology may not have been forbidden in ancient Israel.
The relationship of the ancient Hebrews or Israelites to astrology is a rather complicated one. What the Bible actually condemns is the worship of stars as if they were gods. The Bible has absolutely no problem with the idea of the stars being the messengers of God, or symbols of the will of God.
Unlike earlier civilizations, Judaism did not see astrology merely as a means of prophecy. The temple zodiac may have been a symbolic portrayal of the great cycle of the year and the presence of a supreme being among the stars. Some scholars see the New Testament as the place where astrology...
A supreme being who is not physical, who is a spirit, the creator, who's not in the stars, or way outside the stars, outside all this whole entire reality, including the whole entire freaking so-called space and galaxies. Don't try it. He's not a man, and he have to repent. He said it himself.
Astrology plays a more active role in human affairs.
Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and
when the real prophet was born, okay, of a woman and a man,
come to worship him.
and of course the false prophet was born of a woman and a man too. Don't get it twisted.
And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. Matthew 2:1.
The story is one of the best loved of all religious tales. How three wise men from the east see a bright new star in the heavens. They follow the star to Bethlehem, where they discover a manger. Inside, they recognize a newborn child as the Messiah and offer him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, paying homage to the...
We didn't view the prophets as no Messiah. They put that twist on it, and you're seeing a funny twist now. So there's your twist. The chosen people are all very powerful, and the minute you wake up and realize who you are, what you are, you will have no attachments to this place.
The child as their Redeemer. What was the Star of Bethlehem? Could it have been an actual astronomical event? And who were the mysterious wise men or magi who followed the star?
The three magi of this story were definitely astrologers. And observing the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces, they may have thought like this. Pisces traditionally ruled Judea. Saturn traditionally signified the Jews. And Jupiter definitely signifies kingship. So they may well have deduced.
And I told you Saturn is the planet of the devil. And I told you why would we have that symbol? Why we picked that symbol? Because some of our ancestors, like I said about something, I will tell you our ancestors became evil. Who was they serving? The devil. So you're either gonna wake up to be like your evil ancestors, or you're gonna wake up to be the way you were supposed to be.
The Jews that the king of the Jews was
Get to
being
your
born
highest
in
estate.
Judea.
Whether or not the three wise men were astrologers, the question remains, what did they see in the sky? Were they witnesses to an extraordinary astronomical event, an exploding star or supernova? 20 centuries later, the question still sparks controversy.
There are rationalist historians, and I'm not entirely sure I disagree with them, who question that there was such a phenomenon at all. There are a number of things we can eliminate immediately. It was not a supernova, because there are none reported by anybody else at the time in question. It was probably not a comet, because that would have been noticed by other people.
It was not until the 17th century that the father of modern astronomy, Johannes Kepler, devises a radical theory to answer the riddle of the Star of Bethlehem. In the early 1600s, Kepler observes a rare conjunction of the planets Jupiter and Saturn. They appear to the naked eye as a single dazzling new star. Kepler calculates that the last time this dramatic conjunction had taken place was the year 7, before the Common Era. Is this the actual date of Jesus' birth? Could this have been the Star of Bethlehem? Some astrologers assert that someone born on the date of the star in 7 BCE is potentially a person capable of making a lasting impact on history.
And of course, the real prophet was born of a woman, and his name was not Mr. J. Mr. J's the devil. They're gonna keep throwing that in your face. So, like I always say, chew the meat, spit out the bones.
Kepler suggested that the Star of Bethlehem was this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in.
And we didn't serve the prophets. All the real prophets were just men, not to be served. They were not the creator.
Pisces. It took place in 7 BC. And it seems that he was right about that. And if the fascinating thing is that if you draw up a birth chart or a nativity for somebody born on the 22nd of August, 7 BC, every single planet is in its own sign, the sign that it naturally rules. The sun, the moon, Mercury, and so on. Which would be an extraordinary birth chart to have.
Astrologers believe that someone born under this conjunction of the planets would be destined to change the world. Though astrology was frowned upon by Christianity, over the centuries, belief in the power of the stars steadily grew. By the Middle Ages, astrology was part of the curriculum taught at European universities. Rulers often based decisions of state on astrologers' advice. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Europe witnesses an unrivaled flowering of art, science, and exploration. In this period of cultural ferment, astrology flourishes. During the Renaissance, there is perhaps no more intriguing figure than Dr. John Dee. Astrology enables him to foretell the destiny of a queen. Born during the reign of King Henry VIII, Dee is one of the finest mathematicians and scientists of his time. His study of optics lays the groundwork for Galileo's first telescope. The year is 1555. Though Dee is widely known as an astrologer, He is nevertheless surprised when he receives a summons to draw up a horoscope for an unusual client. None other than a member of the royal family, Princess Elizabeth. England is in the throes of a succession struggle, and this youngest daughter of Henry VIII has been placed under house arrest. Queen Mary feels threatened by the young princess, and it is rumored that Elizabeth is scheduled for execution. Fearing for her life, the desperate Elizabeth summons Dee to predict her future. Is she destined for the execution block, or will she survive her ordeal?
John Dee was a remarkable character in 16th century England. He was very learned in many disciplines that might today strike us as an odd combination: mathematics, but also magic, astronomy, but also astrology.
Dee learns the time and date of the imprisoned princess's birth and begins to calculate her chart. What Dee discovers astonishes him. To Elizabeth's amazement, Dee reports that instead of execution, she faces a very different fate. According to her astrological chart, she is destined to become queen. Learning of the prophecy, Elizabeth's rival, Queen Mary, throws Dee into prison for heresy and treason, sentencing him to be burned at the stake. But the sentence is never carried out. Incredibly, as Dee had predicted, Queen Mary dies